Hey everybody, this is John Marucci coming to you live from Tahquamenon Falls State Park in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And today we're going to do a campsite review of the state park here. So let's talk about the big things about Tahquamenon Falls State Park. First of all, it has a really beautiful upper and lower falls. The upper falls is actually the third most voluminous falls east of the Mississippi, which is quite impressive, and it's very nice to watch the water going over the falls. And the lower falls is also equally impressive. So we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But besides the falls, there's really a lot of hiking trails here at the state park. And the other main draw of this state park is just being disconnected away from it all. So in the Upper Peninsula, it's pretty sparse population. It's easy to get away from it all. Now, some of the drawbacks of the state park up here are you do have to deal pretty intensely with mosquitoes and black flies. There's kind of a lack of variety as far as exercise besides the hiking. And the being disconnected can work both ways. So if you don't want to be disconnected, this probably isn't the place you want to come. And at the end of the video today, we're going to talk about a little bonus that might just help you save a future vacation. So let's get into the review. The first thing we look at is hospitality and check-in. We'll give this a very good rating. It's very much like other Michigan state parks. It's very easy. You just park, come into the ranger station. You know, they'll ask you who you are, and they'll find you in the system, and you get your piece of paper you put on your dash, and you're good to go to your site. So pretty simple. The second thing we look at is infrastructure and amenities. We're just going to give this a good rating, not a very good rating or an excellent rating. Although it has paved roads throughout the campsite, and there's two campsites here at the lower falls where we're staying. There's the Hemlock campsite, which is up the hill, and there's the Portage campsite, which is down in the basin, closer to the river where we're staying right now. And besides the paved roads throughout, which is good, there are two dump stations for about 188 sites, which is a decent ratio. It's less than 100 per site, and it's up by the Hemlock campground. The bathhouse is pretty new, especially here in Portage. Not so much in the Hemlock campground, but the bathhouse is newer in the Portage. It's older in the Hemlock area, and it's got good hot water. We took several showers here, and it was pretty good. They do, however, have a problem with infrastructure and electricity here. So we were here when it was pretty warm for up here in the mid to high 80s for several days in a row, and the power went out several times. Each time they had to come back and turn it back on, which can be kind of dangerous, especially if you leave your pet in your RV and you're going hiking or something and you're expecting the air conditioning to stay on. And that wasn't a very good thing because that's something you're paying for and you expect just to be normal. There's no laundry here. And the other thing that is nice about here is they do have nice concessions both at the lower falls and the upper falls, places where you can get ice cream, pop, and even buy a t-shirt or so. You also at the lower falls here can rent rowboats, and you can also wade out in the water. It's very shallow. We saw several people wading out in the water and cooling off when it was hot. So that's the second area, infrastructure amenities. Not a great rating. The third thing is site quality. So site quality would give it a good, but also not a very good rating. They're dirt pads, which are generally level, and they have a varying degree of privacy. Some along the river have a little more privacy. Other ones not so much. It's more like your average state park kind of parking lot thing where you're right next to your neighbor and there's no berm or anything, so not much privacy. One of the things we really didn't like, again, about the electrical is that when they built this, you have a shared electrical pole. We had to run a cable, our 30 amp cable from the RV to the electrical pole, and it didn't reach. But fortunately, I had an extension, a 30 amp extension electrical cord that I kept with me for a couple years and have honestly just never used before, and actually got to use it this time, had to use it to stretch to the electrical outlet because they put it much closer to one of the sites versus the other, and we were actually farther away, so that came in really handy having the electrical cord, the extension. So a shared electrical panel, not a great idea, and the cord was required. So not a great rating on site quality for that reason. Okay, let's look at exercisability. So this is just also not going to get a great rating, just a fair rating really. Running and biking have been very difficult. Where we're at in the Portage campground, there's a huge hill. We call it in the basin. It's in the basin down here by the lower falls. And to get up to the Hemlock area and out to the road, it's a huge road. I mean, about a third of a mile uphill. Hard to bike up there, hard to run up there to get out there. So it's in a basin. The other thing is the main road, M123, which runs by the campsite, has very narrow shoulders. So even if you get up there outside of the basin to get up and do some biking and running, you're going to have a hard time on the main road to get any mileage because it's pretty dangerous, I would say, to run or bike, and I wouldn't want to do it. Hiking, on the other hand, is very good, or can be very good. However, you have to deal with the mosquitoes. So I'm going to talk about this right now in a little more depth. We had a real mosquito issue this week. It may not be every week that you come up here that would be a problem. When we were here, it wasn't very good at all. Basically, to stay any kind of length outside, you have to put spray on, and pretty decent spray. You can't just go out or you're kind of going to be fresh meat, honestly. So the times we went out without any spray on, we got bitten severely. Not good at all. And, you know, even on the hikes, you've got to make sure you have spray on or some sort of wipes with DEET. Some of the trails were good. Along the trail from the lower to upper falls wasn't too bad because it's more traveled and we didn't hit as many mosquitoes. But when we tried to go the North Country Trail, the south of the Portage Campground, it was horrible. We tried it twice. We had to turn back both times after about half a mile in because it was just impassable. So the hiking is very good. There's great trails, but I think you have to kind of find out when the mosquitoes are going to be in lower population and take advantage of it then. That was not the week we were in, unfortunately. The other thing, and I talked about this a minute ago for exercise, people did play around the falls. It's kind of fun to watch, and you can do that too for exercise. But the hiking is good but limited. So exercise, just a fair rating, not a great rating. Okay, and finally the thing we look at is workability. So workability is going to get the lowest rating we've ever given any state park, which is poor. 1 out of 5, basically, very poor. You just couldn't do any work. There's no bandwidth. So we have an AT&T plan. Those of you who follow these reviews know we use our iPhones with AT&T, and we even have a WeBoost to try and get better cell signal. There's no service. The closest service is the town of Paradise, about 10 miles away. There's a short AT&T tower that was obviously built a while ago, and it services the Paradise area. If you go to Paradise, you get great service. Once you get a few miles away from Paradise toward the state park, which is west of Paradise, you start losing all cell service. When you get to the state park, you don't have AT&T at all, anywhere. Now, Verizon may be a little different. We understand from hearsay that Verizon has a taller tower closer by, and people can use their cell service in some parts of the park, but I would not bank on it. So if you're thinking you're going to come up here and work all week, I really would caution against doing that. We didn't do that. We took time off and just tried to enjoy the park as much as possible, but we didn't work, and it's probably not going to be possible. Especially if you're AT&T service, you're just not going to have any service at all. Okay, so overall, we are only going to give this park a fair rating, which is lower than a lot of the other state parks in Michigan we've given before, because I don't think that it's a very good value exchange. First of all, it's a very long trip to come up here from the lower peninsula, or even from the Midwest. And given the mosquitoes this time of year, which were pretty difficult to deal with, it's just a lot of cost and time and money to come up here to have to deal with the measure of mosquitoes and the pests that they really are. The hiking is good, but it really was limited. We wanted to do more hiking, but just had to turn back at times, and it just mainly due to the mosquitoes, so not good. The other thing that's not good about this park really is the aging and underpowered electric infrastructure, like I talked about in detail a little while ago. You know, that's just a problem. I mean, you're paying for it and you expect to have electric. And of course, no connectivity, which if you want to come and camp at a place where you're just away from it, you know, people at work can't bug you, then that's fine, right? That's a good thing necessarily. But for us, we still like to check email occasionally, see how things are going at home, etc. So we kind of still like having that connectivity. So that wasn't the best situation. So fair rating, not a great rating. I would not and cannot honestly recommend coming up here, you know, in the heat of summer while it's mosquito season. I just wouldn't do it again. I might try and come up here earlier spring or later in fall, maybe when the leaves are changing, it's a little cooler, but not in the midsummer. I just wouldn't do it again, honestly. Okay, so what about the bonus thing that might save your vacation? Okay, what we did find is a pretty neat product. When we were researching coming up here, we did understand there may be some mosquitoes, so we did order something from Amazon, THERMACELL mosquito repellent. It's actually a unit that has butane and a little THERMACELL filter that you light, and it puts out a little bit of smoke and aroma, and it covers a 15-foot area, and that actually worked okay. We were able to stay out in the tent with that on for a while. You have to let it heat up for about 10 minutes, and then it covers the general area, and it actually worked better than expected. So this is something, if you're thinking about coming up here or going to a place where there's a lot of mosquitoes, you may want to invest in something like one of these ThermaCells to use and try it out. We thought it worked pretty well, which this was a good test for that, by the way. So not bad, and we would recommend that. And you'll see that in the recommended products and links that we have in the description below the video. So anyway, this is John Marucci. Hope you enjoyed this and got something out of it. Again, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Appreciate that, and we appreciate you subscribing. Feel free to subscribe. We love having you on the channel. We like making these videos for you very much, and like you watching. And feel free to comment if you have any comments. If you've been here perchance and had a better time of year, glad to hear that in the comments. This wasn't the best, so I wouldn't recommend midsummer coming up here. Anyway, John Marucci, thanks for watching. Have a great day.